And happy Thursday, everyone. My name is meteorologist Heather Kane. It's time for our daily hail forecast. Thanks, as always, to our sponsors for sponsoring our video. So there's a lot to talk about. Let's just jump right into it. So we do have another round for severe weather today from basically western Texas into the panhandles of Texas and Oklahoma, northward into Iowa. So we'll get into more of the details of that. And then getting into tomorrow, we do have a pretty large area where we could see some severe weather from Texas all the way up into the Great Lakes region. Could DFW see its first major hailstorm of the season? We'll talk about that as well. And then more severe weather as we get into the beginning of our weekend. So like I said, a lot to talk about. So before we get into today's forecast, let's recap yesterday. So we did see some activity across parts of Missouri and, parts of southern Illinois as well. You can see some of those storms following up here. A few hail reports here. As we continue through the afternoon, the activity pushed off to the east. And then as we got into the afternoon hours, you can see a few storms start to fire up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and that did produce some severe hail. As we got later on in the evening, you can see those hail reports popping up here across the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and then those moved off into the northeast as we got into the overnight hours. So we do have a 2-star map available for that activity down in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. That can be found on our website. If you're a subscriber, you already have access to that. If you don't have access, give us a call and we will be more than happy to get you set up with that. And as we got into this morning, nothing significant in terms of severe weather, just some showers and storms. So let's look at our current conditions across the United States. So we do have a low pressure system here in Indiana, front stretching from that low pressure all the way down into Oklahoma. And we have a mess here in the northeast, a lot of rain and some mixed precipitation. So we're going to zoom on in here just with taking a look at this really quickly. Just a yucky day here across the Great Lakes region into the northeast. The greens and the yellows indicate, heavier rain. You can see a little bit of a mix here over Lake Erie, and that stretches all the way down into parts of Indiana and Kentucky, down into Tennessee, and a few showers going on right now in Arkansas. And moving into the Central Plains, where we will be watching that chance for severe weather later on this afternoon and evening, stretching northward into the overnight hours. Not too shabby right now, just a few clouds here and there, getting that atmosphere built up for that severe weather potential later on this evening. And then in the northwest, just some snow here in the higher elevations and a few scattered showers here and there across the Pacific Northwest. So taking a look at our temperatures, you can see where that boundary is set up here. South of it, we got temperatures in the upper 70s. Dallas here at 76, 80 in Houston, a little bit cooler in Atlanta, we're at 73. North of that boundary, we can see temperatures start to cool off 20 to 30 degrees. So it's only 51 in Kansas City right now, 48 in Fort Wayne, and 50 in Minneapolis, and a lot cooler as you go into the Pacific Northwest. So let's go forward here. If my computer lets me, there we go. Here's our significant hail model for, we'll be talking about the, not just today, but tomorrow as well. So we like to see those brighter colors to show up. You can see the scale here. Nothing in terms of quantitative, but more just qualitative. But nonetheless, those brighter colors indicate larger hail potential. So we got some yellows and oranges showing up here in Texas and Oklahoma. This is by 3 p.m. this afternoon. And as we go through the evening, you can see some brighter oranges starting to show up here. And then they start to diminish a bit as we go into the overnight hours. And then as we get into tomorrow, you can see some more bright colors showing up here from basically Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, all the way up into the Great Lakes region. So another chance for large hail tomorrow. And then those colors basically stick around through early Saturday. And then kind of jumping ahead very quickly, we do have another chance for hail as we get into our Saturday. That's still a few days out, though. We're going to focus more, though, on the next few days. So here is our radar overlaid on top of that hail model. So you can see by 5 p.m., we will start to see some individual cells starting to fire up here in western Texas. And then as we continue through the evening, more widespread storms are expected to fire up here, and then it will start to push off to the northeast. And then as we get into later on this evening and into overnight hours, that activity will push off to the northeast. I know we saw something about Omaha. So basically, late this evening, overnight hours, we could see some large hail. I do think it'll be on the smaller side. The largest hail will be possible with those initial storms as they develop in Texas and Oklahoma. A mess, though, for your morning commute tomorrow morning as you start your day. Lots of rain here, so potential for some flooding. And then as we get into our Friday, again, more storms are expected to fire up here along and ahead of a potential dry line. So lots of instability. We got to keep an eye on this very carefully. It's going to be potentially a very large area of storm coverage. Oh, but if you like snow, just go on the backside here. Go into parts of Nebraska and Colorado as on the backside of this system. That will be cold air, and there'll be some snow with that. And then getting into the rest of Friday, you can see those storms basically firing up from Wisconsin all the way down into Texas. We'll be watching here Oklahoma City, Dallas, northeastward into possibly KC, Chicago, up into Madison, Green Bay. So again, a very large area we'll be watching tomorrow. And then even some more storms possible as we get into Saturday morning. So let's kind of start breaking it all down here. Here is what a model is saying in terms of precipitation across the U.S. We saw that mess in the northeast. We have some snow in the Pacific Northwest. Quiet right now in the central part of the country, but as we go into this afternoon, you can see those storms starting to fire up here in western Texas. More of a mess here in those two same areas here. And as we go into this evening, those storms will start to spread into western Oklahoma. Large hail will still be possible there, although the hail sizes will start to decrease. As you can see, they're starting to clump together. They're not isolated, or what we call discrete supercells. That's what we like to see when it comes to that very large hail. So we'll be keeping an eye on these, though. And then this activity will push off to the east as we get into the overnight hours. More of a wind threat, I think, with these. You can see some more linear structures here. Large hail up to $half size cannot be ruled out, though, for Omaha, Des Moines, parts of eastern Kansas. And then that will continue to push off to the northeast as we begin our Friday morning. And then that mess of a winter precipitation on the backside of this. So we're going to zoom in a little bit here as we'll be talking about more of Friday as well. But I want to kind of zoom in here for our Thursday. Again, stopping at 2:30 this afternoon. Not a whole lot going on in terms of storms, but then between 5 and 6 p.m. or so, we can see these individual cells starting to fire up here in parts of Texas, spreading into western Oklahoma. This is stopping in at 10:30. And then watch as this activity pushes off to the northeast as we get into the overnight hours. So again, more linear structures here. We could see a few little storms trying to be more individual. We'll keep an eye on those, but I think there'll be more wind and less hail up here. But Mother Nature always likes to surprise us. So we'll watch that. And then again, more heavy rain as we begin our morning tomorrow. And then as we get into our Friday, more storms here are expected to, again, fire up from Wisconsin all the way down to Texas. So it's going to be a large area that we'll be watching tomorrow. And we'll fine-tune those details as we get closer to, tomorrow morning. We'll give, more information and all that fun stuff with tomorrow's forecast as well. And then that pushes off Then we begin our Saturday, more storms here, Chicago, St. Louis, all the way down to Texas once again. You can see some more storms firing up as we begin our Saturday morning, and more storms will be possible for our Saturday as that system continues to push off to the east. So, all right, let's break it down a little bit here. So here is our forecast for today. Again, a pretty large area, but not as large as what we will see tomorrow. And I think the bulk of that large hail will be here in western Texas and western Oklahoma. So I do have a moderate chance for Lubbock and Amarillo. We'll see where those storms decide to fire. They may fire just to the east of you guys, but if we do get storms in this region, we could see up to baseball size hail. So just keep that in mind if you guys are in the panhandle, Texas, and then into far western Oklahoma as well. Keeping you low here in Oklahoma City, but the chances aren't zero. We could potentially see a storm or two come through here. Just depends how, where those storms decide to initiate and where they want it to move. And then, like I said, hail is still possible here from Kansas City, Omaha, Des Moines, but I'm keeping you guys anywhere from $1 to $1/2 size hail. That larger hail will most likely remain to your south. So that is for the forecast for today. How large of hail can we see? Again, baseball size hail cannot be ruled out, especially with those initial storms in Texas and potentially into western Oklahoma. We'll see how long those storms stay discrete. Once they start to get clustered together and become a bit more messy, that's when the hail sizes start to go down. So we will keep an eye on that. Now, jumping again into really getting into tomorrow, I'll kind of jump ahead here. More storms again tonight. And then as we get into tomorrow morning, Omaha, again, you could see $1/2 size hail potentially with those storms. Then getting into tomorrow morning, Chicago, it could be a noisy commute for you. And then we'll be basically watching, again, Great Lakes region, so Wisconsin, Illinois, eastward into parts of Michigan, Indiana, all the way down to Texas for tomorrow as a setup. So this is stopping it at 4:30. You can see some individual cells trying to pop up here, and as well as here in central and eastern Oklahoma. And then more storms as we go through the rest of tomorrow evening into the overnight hours. There'll be a cold front here, and that will initiate some storms with that as well. So it could be a very active day tomorrow as we see those storms fire up. So let's zoom on in here just to take a closer look. So this is again for today, kind of just zooming on through. We've already gone through all this. So I'm just going to go through this very quickly. And then as we go into finally tomorrow afternoon, those individual cells will start to fire up here. So we'll be watching a very large area, again, from Wisconsin all the way down to Texas very carefully tomorrow. It could be potentially a very active day. So, yeah, you can see all these storms starting to fire up here. We'll be watching, of course, Dallas here in Oklahoma City, Wichita, Omaha, all the way up into Chicago. More storms along that cold front, potentially on early Saturday morning. So very busy day potentially as we go into Friday and then maybe even into Saturday as well. So let me see here. This is our dew points. So that is basically moisture in the atmosphere. And that's one of the very important ingredients that we need for that severe weather. So here's today. Not too bad. It could be better. We like to see those darker greens when it comes to dew points, but at least they're not in the browns. These are very low dew points. That's where some very dry air is. But we do have some moisture in place for today, and that will continue to stream upwards as we go into tomorrow morning. They can see some darker greens starting to show up here in southern Texas, and they'll try to reach up into parts of northern Texas, into Oklahoma as we get into tomorrow. You can see where we have that distinct separation between very moist air and very dry air. So there could be a dry line trying to fire up or develop here. So if storms can develop along that dry line, it could produce some large hail with those. And then as we go into tomorrow evening, still a lot of moisture in place, a lot of fuel for those storms to use, and still quite impressive as we get into our Saturday as well. I'm just going to let this zoom on or zoom past here. And speaking of that instability, this is Cape, so this is really the meat and potatoes when it comes to that storm development. This is instability. So we like to see those very bright colors, lots of instability today here in Texas and Oklahoma, and still, some instability here as we go into the overnight hours, stopping it at 3 p.m., getting up into Kansas. And then they start to dwindle a little bit as we get into tomorrow morning. But as we get into tomorrow afternoon, you can see those colors starting to ramp back up a bit. So it could be a potentially, again, very busy day tomorrow. We have that moisture, we have the instability, we have a frontal system setting up, so everything is setting up for that severe weather potential. And again, still sticking around here as we get into Friday and then into Saturday. So this is why we've been having multiple days of this severe weather, because we have that instability in place that those storms can feed off of. So let's get into tomorrow. I'm kind of keeping it kind of basic right now. And of course, things will change as we get more details as we get into tomorrow. But again, a very large area, Texas, all the way up into parts of the Great Lakes region. So let's zoom on in here. I do have a moderate chance for up to tennis ball size hail with any storms that do develop here from Dallas, here in Oklahoma City. We'll be watching you very closely here because this is our home turf. And then here in Wichita, northward into KC, we could see some large hail there as well. As far west as Hastings, we could see $250 size hail. So, and then we have Omaha, Des Moines, St. Louis, Chicago, Madison, up into Green Bay, eastward to Fort Wayne. If I step out of the way here, so a very large area. We'll be watching for that potential for large hail tomorrow. So. Could be another busy day tomorrow. Right now, I'm saying up to tennis ball size for the maximum hail size for those storms tomorrow. That could change as well. It all just depends what happens today, and that may, that will affect what happens tomorrow. It's the whole atmosphere kind of thing. So let's look at our future jet stream, because as we can see, it's been busy the last few days, and it's going to continue to be busy. Today, tomorrow, into Saturday as well. And it's because we have this trough here in the western part of the U.S., and that is what is basically driving these multiple chances for severe weather. So getting into this evening, you can see it starts to dip south, and then as we go into Friday, it pushes off to the east a little bit. So not moving a whole lot over the next, 24 to 48 hours. Starts to move to the north, into the north part of the country as they get into late Friday evening, and then kind of still sticking around here on our Saturday. So again, this is our main driver. It's going to be very busy, and then kind of lift to the north a bit as we get into our Saturday and then beginning of Sunday. So kind of just to quickly recap, here is our chance for severe weather today. We do have that enhanced risk in parts of Texas and Oklahoma. Marginal risk for severe weather from Iowa all the way down to Texas. We do have another area. This is likely going to be associated with wind and not hail, but it's still there from Kansas, Kentucky, southern Ohio, and into West Virginia, and very far northern Virginia as well. And then as we get into tomorrow, very large area once again for that severe weather. It could be a very busy day tomorrow. I know I'm going to be potentially on deck to help map storms. That may be fun. So if I do, it'll be the first time in like 2 years. So, but yeah, very large area again for severe weather potentially tomorrow. Large hail, damaging winds, tornadoes will all be possible. Again, with all the severe weather today, as well as especially getting into tomorrow. And then it's Saturday, we do still have a chance for severe weather from the Great Lakes region, Ohio, Pennsylvania, parts of New York, all the way down to, once again, Texas. Houston will be watching you guys as well for Saturday's risk. So, very busy. very, very busy. If you haven't already, make sure you follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or our TikTok page. Make sure you hit see first on Facebook so you don't miss any of our live videos. And I cannot stress this enough. It is March. We are in spring now. If you have been waiting to, renew, waiting to, be a new customer of ours, we're here to help you. This is now the time to do it. You do not want to wait when that storm happens. You'll already be behind if you do that. So to give us a call or contact in any other ways, you can call us at 855-334-4245. You can email us at info@hilltrace.com. And check out our website at www.hilltrace.com. Again, very busy next few days. I know all of us meteorologists will be busy mapping storms and answering questions and all that fun stuff. We are here to help you. But until those storms decide to fire up this afternoon, I'm going to close it on out here. I am meteorologist Heather Kane. I hope you all have a great rest of your Thursday.